Grita Radio. Señal binaria.
Muy buenas tardes, tengan todos ustedes bienvenidos a una sesión más de Estante Grita Radio. Mi nombre es Axel Barceló y el día de hoy tengo un invitado súper especial. Vamos a tener una entrevista en inglés because I am very happy to have here Andreas Deris. Thank you, Andreas. Welcome to Grita Radio. Welcome to Mexico. How are you?
Muy buenas. I'm very fine. Yes, thank you.
Where in the world are you connected from?
In the moment, I'm in Germany because I decided not to fly back home because we only had 5 days. So I'm stranded in Germany. Nevertheless, the first show after that little break will be Berlin anyway. So that's cool.
Okay, perfect. So when are you coming to Mexico? You're coming not only to Mexico City, right?
No, we have a little South American tour here. I think it's like going through Argentina and Colombia, por supuesto, Mexico.
Por supuesto.
Por supuesto. Costa Rica, Brasil, dos países más, creo.
I mean, when you're traveling around the world like that, how do you keep track, like where in the world you are? How do you, can you tell the difference between the audiences and things like that?
Well, honestly, sometimes I don't keep track. So it's it's when my manager is telling me we are in this and that city. I do know the name of the country I'm playing in most of the times, but depends on when we're playing, for example, United States, I really lose track. So he sometimes really has to remind me we are playing tonight in whatever city. And I go, oh yeah, thank you very much. Oh, I would have forgotten it. So these are the moments when I stand on stage and go like, hello, people, how are you doing? Because I don't remember the city. Oh, that's embarrassing, but that happens after 50 or 60 shows. You're just in that, I don't know, constant, I don't care anymore where we are thing, you know.
Also, do you remember when was your first world tour? And what was the difference between how you felt then and how you feel now about touring?
My first world tour was, well, actually not a real world tour because we didn't play with the United States and South America with Pink Cream 69, my first successful band. Yeah, the feeling was weird because you remember that it felt like yesterday you were still in the rehearsal room and dreaming about being on tour, and suddenly you played 70, 80 shows, and there was success going on. You feel super surreal when you're in Japan and you just had a top 10 album there and all that stuff. It was so quick. It was so probably too quick, because that probably was the main reason that I decided to call it a day with Pink Cream and join Helloween. Even though Helloween was, for me, a band that I liked very much, and back in the days, one of my best friends, and nowadays my best friend, was Michael Weikert. I hang out with Weikert during the demo times of Pink Cream, even long before we had a record deal, because all the demos we recorded in Hamburg, and Weikert was living in Hamburg back in the days. Now we both live in Tenerife, because when my wife and I decided to leave Germany, Weikert just said, oh, I'm leaving too. And I said, but where? Oh, I'm going to Tenerife as well. I said, but you've never been on the island. And he said, well, if you guys like it, I like it.
Oh, so, that's so nice. Yeah. Tenerife is a beautiful island.
Yeah, it is.
How long have you been living there?
It's 26 years now.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
so that is also why you have such good Spanish.
Well, my Spanish is mediocre, I would say. But to my excuse, yes, I'm resident in Tenerife since 26 years, but I've not been on the island longer than 11 years, because I've constantly been on tour or on promotion or in different studios in the world. So yeah, I mean, that's my excuse. That my Spanish is not as good as my wife's Spanish. She's speaking perfectly Canarian accent. So
nice.
Yeah.
But then when you you were saying that your first success was too fast, perhaps. So what kind of lessons you wish you knew then that now, after all these years of professional, successful career, you would have
Yeah,
taught yourself?
yeah, I would say the most important thing is speak. You have to speak. All the band members have to know what's going on inside out, put it that way. So each and every fear and each and every quarrel or stress or whatever, we are all different people. So Pink Cream back in the days were 4 people, but somehow we did not know that you actually have to talk about your feelings, even though now it's crystal clear. Back in the days it wasn't. Now it's like it's like your family. You spend much more time with your band than you would ever with your fiancé, with your girlfriend, or with your family, or whatever. And automatically you should know that it's super important to talk, to speak. This is something you learn then with the years. With Helloween, we speak about each and every bullshit. I mean, even if it's just bullshit, every thing you drops up in your head, it pops up and you say it, and the rest of the band can react and say, yeah, it's exactly like that, or no, don't take it too heavy, it's like this and that, in my opinion. But you speak, you talk, and yeah, that's the most important thing, because when you talk with the people, you get to know people, and you realize, okay, sometimes they got the same fears or the same excitement or whatever. You get to know people, and you sooner or later you have the trust to tell the people what you think and what you feel. And then it's nearly no space for misunderstandings,
So
As
now
it-
you think you can speak about anything to the rest of your bandmates?
it's I hope. I mean, I know we do. So I just hope there are no hidden things going on. I don't think so. We really speak about everything. Put it that way, from a certain point on, you have the experience and the age. I think that's also a very important thing. If you hit 40, you start to reconsider, to look at certain things that happened in a different way. You analyze. I'm speaking for myself. I hope other people are a bit quicker, but I'm a slow learner, so it took quite a while. But then you realize, okay, with friendliness and with tolerance, life is much easier.
Do you think that has also affected how you sound? Like, do you think that also makes you a tighter, better sounding band, or just one that gets along better?
Yeah, you could go into that direction. I think when a band has more patience with each other, and I think patience is grounded in matter of fact, I think, in liking each other.
Yes.
So if you don't like each other, patience is abandoned, so to say. It's not there. If you don't like anyone, somebody, you even don't want to spend time with them. So how could there ever be patience? So yeah, I think that's the formula.
So you think those links were the product of hard work, or do you also think you were fortunate that those people, that the rest of the band also wanted to embark in this work of building these strong links?
I think it's a combination, definitely. I mean, one would not work without the other. So it has to there has to be a combination. And then I think from person to person, that combination is different, weighted. So maybe 60-40 for me, maybe 70-30 for Waiki, maybe 80-20 for Michael, but that doesn't matter as soon as there are like these, what's the right word?
Complement.
These ballparks where we're all together. So
yeah, like complementing each other.
Exactly. That's the key word, I think. And you don't even have to fight for it. It's automatically there. We are all normal people. I think, okay, if there would be a psycho or a sociopath in the band, I think then there would not be a ballpark, a common ballpark. Then you would have a problem. So I think there's no solution. But I'm happy to say we don't have any psychopath or something like that in the band. And if there would be one, it's me.
But did you learn this by yourself, or did you read books? Did you?
No.
It was just the maturity of aging.
Oh, I don't. I mean, aging is something which is definitely an important part of the evolution. But I know people, they are in their 20s. They are much more mature than I ever will be. So
Right.
I'm not sure if it's only aging. Aging means you would have more time to learn. But that doesn't mean that an older person of, like, let's say an old guy with 75 must be wiser than I or you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not my experience, because I just
Yeah,
said
you're right.
there are people in the 20s, they are much more mature than I ever will be. So I think it's also a matter of what's the right word? Emotional intelligence.
Yes.
If there are people who have that emotional intelligence, I think they know exactly that all the people in the whole friggin' world have the same fears, they have the same hopes, the same dreams, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big ballpark for each and every one of us. And if we would actually acknowledge that and realize that, then I think this trust in other persons and the confidence and everything would rise. So you could talk to each and every person as if it would be a little brother, you know.
Nice.
Because he is like you in a big ballpark. Maybe left and right he's different, but the main things we all want, that's actually love, understanding, fun. Also our hopes, dreams, and everything are pretty much the same. Again, I'm not talking about psycho or sociopaths.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, I think these are not very many people in the world. So
Yeah, I hope so as well.
I hope so too. Maybe I got a completely twisted point of worldview here, but
yeah, maybe we're very fortunate that we haven't run into many sociopaths and psychopaths. Yeah. But let's go back to your beginnings, because I want to know why metal, right? Like when you started playing music and singing, I mean, you could have sung you could have sung so many different styles, but what did you find in metal that made you become
I don't know. It was
singer?
just that music. Back in the days, it was called hard rock. So there was no term like metal when I started out. It actually was a term that I was aware of in end of 80s, 70, 80, 87, 80, 88. There were suddenly lots of people talking about metal. And I thought, I listened to so-called metal bands, and I thought, but it's hard rock. So
Indeed.
For me, it was always hard rock. And you just turn on the distortion on the guitars a little bit more, and you compress the drums a little bit more, so everything sounds a bit more brutal. And then they called it metal. For me, as a rocker, it was always just a matter of arrangement, like sound. So suddenly I was in Pink Cream. Suddenly they called us metal band. I go like, well, I actually copied my idols, like Kiss or Judas Priest, and our guitarist was having a little bit more distortion. Our drums were a bit more pounding, a bit more compressed, and suddenly you were in that metal corner. And I thought, okay, if they want to call it metal, it's metal. But I never made up my mind. Do I want to do metal? No. Or do I want to be pop rock? No. I mean, I just wanted to be a rocker. Rock music in all its glory, from ballad to Are You Crazy? Are You Nuts? Turn off to 11, turn on to 11 gain and whatever. For me, it was hard rock. So
and now that so many people like consider you like metal singer and in a metal band, does that do you feel so you don't feel constrained? Like, oh, I cannot go in that direction?
No, not at all. It's just the term metal. Back in the days, it was called hard rock. As a hard rock band, you always had a ballad or two as well. What changed in the metal world? You also have one or two ballads, and everybody's expecting it. So for me, nothing changed. I mean, I always written my songs the way I've written them, and I didn't change. I just changed the sound a little bit, and I'm happy with it because honestly, I love a good distorted guitar, which is actually trembling to my neighbors. That's the way it should be.
But what do you like about it? You like the power, the energy? What is it that you like about those particular hard sounds, that brutality?
Well, in metal is giving you the freedom to actually do everything you want. So you could actually you play the hardest metal song in the world, and still there's a middle part which is a ballad, and then you go back to it, and so you have that freedom to be versatile, to be whatever. I mean, you just whatever you feel, you can do it, and that's what I like about it. Also, I think metal guys are, maybe I'm unfair here, but at least I know that all the people I know, all the fans or lovers of metal music, they are very honest people when it comes to their feelings. I've seen so many people, like rockers in their 40s or 50s, in their metal in their leather jacket, rockers. I mean, probably they got their motorbikes out there, and we played songs like Forever and One, and they're standing there crying, you know, and I thought, wow, that's greatness. You know, that's a strong guy, and he knows he is strong, but he shows his feeling. That makes him even stronger, if you ask me, you know. And that's what I like about the community here. If you feel good, show it. If you feel sad, show it. That's cool, and that's for me metal music. It used to be hard rock music. Now it's called metal, but for me that's not real a big difference. If I listen to old bands like The Sweet, for example, and you listen to a song like Set Me Free, that was metal back in the days. It was 70s. Nobody was talking about metal back in the days. That term has not even been born, but they already played metal. Listen to that song and you know what I mean. So yeah, I like that attitude. I like that. You don't have to be, don't have to be cool all the days. I mean, you don't have to be a crybaby all the days as well. I mean, I would hate you for that. But so if you show your feelings and then you go back to normal, I think that's the only music where this is allowed. I mean, real life feelings, you know.
Yeah, but I also like that you present it as not just a musical style, a genre, but like a community, right? So how do you notice that this is not just a bunch of people that like more or less the same kind of music, but an actual community?
Well, the proof for me would be that I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people showing up again and again last 30 years. So it's first of all a community, yes, but second of all, or maybe that's first of all, that later became a big community, maybe. It doesn't matter any way you look at it. It's definitely a community, but it's because they live a certain life which they recognize in each other. Same for me here. I mean, it's always easy to sit down with a rockhead or metalhead. I don't need to explain myself. I'm a rockhead, I'm a metalhead, and honestly, most of the times I know exactly what they think and they know what I think. You don't need to explain yourself. It's the way you are, it's the way they are. We all live more or less the same shit life or same great life or whatever. So there's also a certain understanding. Again, we're back to the ballpark. That's pretty much it. Metalheads have their own thinking, and I think when we don't discuss the freedom of music style you may like or not, because in that sense they are very, very conservative. So it has to be rock most of the times, and metal. That's where I differ. I'm too much of a musician. I want to listen left and right, learn different styles, understand different styles. And sometimes I gain a little bit out of it, and maybe it's a next spice for another song for Helloween, you know? So I'm always trying to open my ears. I don't try to be that typical German cabeza quadrada. You know, I try to be open. I try to be open. I'm not perfect, but I try to be open. But so back to the metal community,
Yes.
I think that's the old rock and roll spirit that survived. Like the 60s, a little bit of hippie, a little bit of rocker, a little bit of anarchy, a little bit of self-reigning, and we don't need anybody, and that's cool.
Isn't that also very masculine? Don't you think that those
no,
are
not
also...
at all. I
no?
think
Okay.
when I'm married with a woman, she is much more masculine than I will ever be, you know. So she's a fighter. She was born in a super poor family. They always had to fight. They actually fled Yugoslavia back in the day. So I got the best example is my wife. I mean, she's a much harder fighter than I ever will be, because I was born not with a golden spoon, but at least a silver spoon. So I never had, my parents never had worries to feed me, or there was always a roof above my head. It was always warm. It's always cozy. So I'm not the one to say I'm a hard guy here.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not. But being married with a woman like I am, I can tell you women are at least as much fighter than men. At least.
Excellent. Okay, then let's go to Helloween, to your new album, and you're in this united version. I mean, were you surprised about how successful it has been?
Well, I was not surprised that it was successful, yes, but I was surprised that it became #1 even in Germany, Spain, and it was like, what's going on, you know? So that was not to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the top 10 in the world was something that we always hoped for, because it very often happened, and you're super grateful for that. You go, oh, party. Yeah. But then when you hit #1 in several countries of the world, then you go like, oops, what's going on?
Yeah. So
you always try to find out what did you do different now that you, but that's a fight you cannot win. So at the end of the day, you have to realize, okay, we did what we always did, but it must be the combination now, like the Pumpkins United thing that probably has something special.
Mm-hmm.
And gives that extra bonus, and you're not on #4, but you're #1. So that extra kick must be that Pumpkins United energy, and certainly Michael, who's definitely such a great singer, and I mean, lots of old fans, I think, got back to the band then, which kicks you from #4 to #1. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But that also requires new fans. I mean, I don't think all those people.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Definitely. But I do think that we have enough good material on the new album, which is definitely pleasing the new fans as well. So we didn't go back completely into the 80s sound.
Exactly.
So we always try to have at least 40-50% of the album, in the typical nowadays Helloween sound, or arrangement. At least the sound we try to make 80s as much as possible. Yes. But it was quite clear in the beginning that even the modern arranged songs that people are used to since 1994 or 2000, when the Dark Ride came out, then that was a new chapter, and you could definitely combine it with the old 80s sound, and the result speaks for itself. So
this was an explicit decision. You actually got together and said, like, well, we need to keep this balance because this is what the new Helloween United is. Yes,
absolutely. Because we always wanted to combine, for the live shows as well, we wanted to combine these 3 decades of metal. And these are 3 decades that show different colors of metal. I mean, when you go back to the Walls of Jericho, that's a complete different chapter to the Keeper of the Seven Keys albums. And when you go back to the Andy Darius days are from like the Master of the Rings, Time of the Oath on. Mm-hmm. And then we made another big change with the Dark Ride, because we realized we had to actually be true to ourselves, but also try to be on spot with the new train leaving. I mean, you had suddenly all these great grunge bands and stuff like that. I always said, okay, we're not going to make grunge, definitely
No.
not. But we have to change the sound a little bit into that favor. So it must be possible to still make speed metal, but an album that actually crosses a little bit the boundaries of old speed metal with nowadays grunge shit without playing grunge. So
Yes.
we just talk about sound. And this is when we came out with the Dark Ride, and it worked. Suddenly we had like, I don't know how many millions new fans and skateboards, it's like skateboarders, and it was fantastic. And suddenly you had a new generation in the concert hall which had good, if I could fly, and you go like, oh, what's going on here? And, you know, it worked. But you cannot plan it. You can always talk about it, and at the end of the day, when the producer is not good enough, for example, you would not have that sound that, I would say it's like that Linkin Park thing. Back to one of those bands that I really adored, you had a little Linkin Park here between old 80s power metal and nowadays sound. In the beginning, we thought, when it was released for like 3 months, we thought, okay, that's probably not good what we did. But suddenly it took up like a little rocket. And boom, there was a golden record for the Dark Ride, and boom, there was another. But it took much longer for the people to accept, oh, it sounds different, but look, it's still Helloween, you know?
Yeah.
And from that day on, we were able to swim free in open waters, whatever we wanted to do, as long as it's a metal album, and there you go, boom.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, the support from the people gives you security of for trying new things.
Exactly.
But you also mentioned the importance of producers. How did you decide to work with Bauerfeind and Ward for this album?
Well, the Dark Ride, we had Roy Z and Charlie Bauerfeind. So we felt that Roy Z was a very important thing because he produced some successful, new rock bands and grunge bands. And we actually wanted to try to do that experiment, to have that grunge sound, but gained up to 11, but still have that nowadays radio sound.
Is that what you told them? Like, oh, this is what we want. We want.
Yeah, actually, we told them we want you because you know which sound we can actually achieve with a band like Helloween without changing the music too much. But the sound and the combination with Roy Z and Charlie was fantastic for the Dark Ride. After the Dark Ride, we realized, okay, the next material we have on paper is probably needing a typical Helloween sound. So no grunge shit anymore. I say shit not in a bad way.
Yeah.
I mean
stuff.
And that's when we said goodbye to Roy Z. And because Charlie was super good in combining the typical 80s sound with the nowadays digital sound without too much digital, because when you kill it and edit it and quantize it to death, it's got nothing to do with rock and roll anymore, and that's where we come from. It
sounds too perfect.
Yeah, it's the feeling is gone. Okay. At least for a band like us, you know, you have to see we are playing drums that are so fast. Other people make half of an album with one song that we like, you know, of Helloween. There's so much, and you take the hits on the drums and you can make 6 normal rock songs with it, you know, which means when you quantize even these fast drums, then you are robotic. There might be bands who make a good success with being robotic, but that's not Helloween. We always have to try to be a bit more rock and roll and not too perfect. I mean, it's still handmade music. It's not the computer here. So yeah, let the people feel that it lives, you know. So but Charlie was the perfect guy for the future, we felt. And up to today, he's still called kind of a member of the band, you know.
That's
without
nice.
Charlie, no production.
But you were also saying how this is not only reflected on the album, but also on your live shows, right? That you also need to keep this balance of the different sound, the different eras. So what kind of balance have you achieved in this YouTube? What kind of sound are we going to expect when you come to Mexico?
Well, we try to actually keep the pumpkin up the way we used to do it on the Pumpkins United tour.
Okay.
Me personally, I think it a bit unfortunate that we only have 2 hours and 10, 2 hours and 15. Then again, you don't want to kill your fans. I mean, there's already a great band in playing in front of us, Hammerfall from Sweden. Probably the people will not survive another 3 hours Helloween after Hammerfall. That's what we realized. So we cut down an hour. So it's 2 hours 10, 2 hours 15, depending on how long the people sing along with us. I mean, if you have seen a Helloween concert, it might quite be that I'm a bit stupid again, and we sing along with the people for 10 minutes longer than normally. So
wow.
It depends on. Sometimes my monitor man has to actually give me a signal through my monitors in my ears. Hey, Andy, you should stop it now. It's over 10 minutes. And like we run into time problems, you know, because most of the venues have a so-called curfew, which means that's the time you should stop. Otherwise, the police will shut down the amps. We never had that, but it's possible because, you know, it depends on where the concert hall is. When you're in the middle of a living area, you have to stop at 11. I mean, it's only fair because people want to have their sleep. I never try to sleep when a metal concert is next to me, but I think it's nearly impossible. So, yeah. Nevertheless, I think we did a good job. Again, we try to put, again, all the decades of metal into only 2 hours and 10. There will be lots of people who tell us, you should play this, you should have played that, but that's always the same story. Even when we played 3 hours 20, there were so many people who said, I missed that song, I missed that song. I said, okay, there's one solution. We make a tour where we play 4.5 hours. But that would mean the end of the band, because we probably, after 2 or 3 shows, we would not have a drummer anymore. That guy has to play all the 4.5 hours by himself, you know. Michael and I, we can go 50-50. That's not the problem, but our drummer will be probably dead, so not gonna happen.
How do you think is the longest it has been that one song has been left unplayed live in the catalog?
Well, that must have been Dr. Steen. Dr. Steen, we always played since my first show with Helloween back in '94. We still play it and we never stopped playing it. The second song would probably be Future World. And then How Many Tears and I Want Out. These songs, but I Want Out came in I think in 1998, after already 3 world tours. Yes, then we played I Want Out because, and it was a big surprise because most of the people thought Waiki doesn't want to play it because it's a Kai Hansen song. But honestly, we already had 2 hour shows and longer. And sooner or later, there were so many fans who said, well, I Want Out, I Want Out. I said, okay, we have to put in I Want Out. Sure. And then we did it. Followed up now by songs like If I Could Fly, Power, which we played forever, so to say. Unfortunately, we don't play If I Could Fly on this tour, because sooner or later you have to say one has to die for the other. Doesn't mean we don't play it in the future, but on this tour we don't. Yeah. And Eagle Fly Free. Yeah, Eagle Fly Free was always in the set. I would say 80% of all the concerts I've sung, I sung Eagle Fly Free. I'm just happy that Michael is back, because for me, Eagle Fly Free was a torture.
Gorgeous.
That's that typical Michael Kiske super song. And you can only lose. Nobody can sing it as good as Michael. So he's back.
Also, I'm also glad he's back.
Yeah,
These are
definitely.
also very uplifting songs. Like,
Yeah.
do you think that also has something to do with their success, or how they are so close to trademarks of the band?
I could imagine, yeah, because it's not a secret that we are one of a few happy Helloween
Yeah.
party bands. So
Yeah.
probably I would not know any. Maybe Iron Maiden is a party band. We will probably be the only guys together with Iron Maiden who are actually bringing up some positive thing here and not being too negative. I mean, sometimes you need a dark song for another feeling in the show, and go back to positive or go back to sad and have a nice little ballad going on before you go on metal up your ass again. But I would say it's only Iron Maiden and Helloween who have the overall happy thing. So I think the job is done when we leave stage and people are happy. Put it that way. If I see people smiling after we go, or when we go off stage, and everybody's going, yeah, and having a big smile on their face, I know the job is done. So I would not like to be in a band where people are only aggressive and considered to be success for bands who are only aggressive when they go off stage and see people only go like, you know. I can understand that, because sometimes I go to aggressive concerts and I enjoy it. But that's not personally something I would give to my people. So even though I enjoy it, so I'm a guy who stands there and goes, I love it, you know, I love it. But for my band, I'm happy that we are these guys who make the people smile.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry that our time has run out, but it was been great talking to you. And of course, in the name of the whole country, we're very glad to be seeing you soon.
Yeah, and finally we are allowed to get back to Mexico, huh?
Thank you so much.
Was a long time we were not allowed to.
I know.
So hey,
okay, thanks so much. On the contrary.